My stepdaughter rolled her eyes and said, "You're just here to impress us." So I stopped trying. I closed my wallet, silenced my phone, and let them experience life without my impressions. They finally noticed me when I wasn't around to be noticed. My name is Ben. I'm 43. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a refrigeration technician. I fix broken freezers in strip mall sushi bars. I patch heaters under diners. I crawl through crawl spaces when winter's cold snaps freeze up apartment vents. I don't talk much about it. I just show up. I just work. 3 years ago, I married Mandy. I thought maybe I was stepping into a chance to build something, a home, family, a chance to be something more than just a man who fixes cold. She was sweet, tired. Life had worn her down, but she had warmth. 2 daughters, Jess and Holly. I didn't ask to be dad. I didn't try to shove myself in their lives. I hoped, slowly, by being around, by paying bills, by cleaning messes, by showing up. Maybe one day they'd let me in. Maybe they'd nod once. Maybe they'd look at me and see someone who cares. But from the start, I was background noise. Not even noise. Dust in the corner. Jess, 17, headphone hanging halfway out, the world forever more important than right now. Holly, 13, bright-eyed, always distracted, always with a tablet or a screen. And Mandy, worn out by years of juggling jobs and past mistakes. I offered support. I offered presence. I offered stability. The rent, the groceries, the car repairs. The little things no one thanked you for. When their car broke down on a rainy Friday, I found a used Honda, took out a loan, made sure they had wheels. When Jess stayed late after school for physics tutoring, I sat with her under a single lamp, quizzed formulas I barely remembered because I wanted her to pass. When Holly cried herself to sleep after a dream that felt too big and confusing for a 13-year-old, I hung by the door, listening to her breathing slow. I bought her boxes of cereal at midnight when she said she was hungry. I bought holiday gifts they never opened, gifts they tossed aside the next week because new phones, new shoes, new games, they came so often they stung with routine. One evening, I offered to drive Jess to a college open house. Saturday. My day off. My drive. My gas. My time. And she looked at me, not grateful, not curious, bored, half listening as she scrolled through her phone. I said, "If you want, I can take you." I meant it like I meant everything, quietly, genuinely. Maybe she'd see I cared. Maybe I'd earn a moment. "You're just trying to impress us." She didn't yell. She didn't scorn. Her words dropped softly, like a curtain sliding closed. She didn't look angry. She didn't even seem to care. Just tired contempt. And in that moment, for the first time, I realized the truth. Everything I've done for years wasn't building anything. It was invisible. Or worse, it was a burden. I remember standing at the threshold of the hallway after she said it. My chest tightened. My hands fisted so hard I felt the veins stand out on my forearms. I remembered every single bill I paid, every dent I fixed, every late-night grocery run, every missing sock I found and folded, every silent prayer I whispered to hope that one day, maybe, just maybe, they'd stop seeing me as the guy who shows up on weekends. I remembered how I always tried to help, how I patched holes, how I tried to keep the house from cracking apart. But maybe the cracks were never mine to fix. Just trying to impress you, as if love were an audition, as if kindness were a display, as if I was doing tricks for applause, as if I was performing. I wanted, in that moment, to throw something, break something, shatter the illusion, theirs and mine. I wanted to yell. I wanted tears. I wanted confrontation. But I didn't. I just closed the door softly behind me, walked back to the garage, and stared at the tools on the wall. The rattling sockets and wrenches, the heavy compressor belts. My life, my work, the cold machines I fixed without judgment, without ego. Machines didn't roll their eyes. Machines didn't care about who I was. Machines broke, and I fixed them. That was honest. That was real. I thought about leaving. Not tonight. Not yet. I thought about leaving someday quietly. Not with anger. Not with accusation. Just absence. Because if my presence meant nothing, Maybe absence would mean something. I walked into the kitchen after that night. The light overhead buzzed faintly. Forgotten dishes piled in the sink. Empty pizza boxes. Clothes scattered across chairs. Holly's tablet charger unplugged and half-tangled in cords. Jess's sneakers kicked off by the door. I had offered to help with laundry last weekend, but she said she would manage. She always managed. I found my coat and keys still hanging by the door. I didn't take them yet, but I paused. I listened to the house breathing around me. The hum of the fridge, the distant drone of TV, the creak of floorboards. I wondered if I was the only one noticing I was there at all. I ran a hand over the teaspoon I held, cold metal, smooth handle. It weighed nothing, carried nothing, like me, invisible, unnoticed. I stood there, in silence, and felt something inside me crack. Not a scream, not a fight, just a fracture, a first fissure. And that fissure spread out slowly into my arms, my back, my bones, into the way I walked, into the way I slept, into the way I held my breath when they spoke around me. Because I knew in that moment I was done pretending. I was done hoping for small kindnesses that would never come. I was done believing that time or good intentions or quiet effort might soften their contempt. I turned off the kitchen light, walked out the door, into the night, and I carried the weight of their indifference with me. Because until I disappeared, maybe they wouldn't see me at all. After Jess said it, "You're just trying to impress us," I didn't answer. I didn't defend myself. That silence? It wasn't surrender. It was the beginning of my exit. Not the kind of exit you pack a bag for. This was quieter, more surgical. I stopped offering, stopped suggesting, stopped showing up with open hands. And no one noticed. Not right away. You'd think pulling back would cause a ripple, a disruption. But if your presence is nothing, then your absence is just the sound of a drawer closing in another room. Barely noticed. The first thing I cut was dinner. I stopped picking up takeout on my way home. No more, "I thought you might be hungry." I didn't mention it. Just didn't do it. They still ate, of course. They always ate. Mandy microwaved leftovers. Holly poured cereal. Jess ordered delivery and didn't share. Next came errands. The silent logistics of their lives I had quietly kept moving. Groceries, repairs, bills, pickups, appointments. I had always kept track. Dentist every 6 months. School forms by Tuesday. Holly's swim practice Mondays and Thursdays. Jess's club meetings on Wednesdays. The kind of things you remember when you care, and I cared. God help me, I cared. But I let it slide. Not in a bitter way. I just stopped carrying it. I watched the calendars lapse. Watched Mandy scramble. Watched Holly miss her practice. Watched Jess miss a ride and blame Uber wait times. No one asked why I didn't remind them. No one thanked me when I did. Now that I didn't, the silence said it all. One night Mandy looked at me over a plate of cold pasta. "You okay?" she asked. I shrugged. She tried to smile. "Going into budget mode or something?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. I had spent over $2,000 last month on things for that house. Groceries, school fees, phone bills, a plumbing emergency, a new laptop charger, birthday gifts. And not one of them had spoken a word about it. Not even a grunt of acknowledgement. "Something like that," I said. The next week, I let Jess call her own ride to the orthodontist. She was late. Missed the appointment. Had to reschedule. Mandy texted me, "Why didn't you take her?" I didn't reply. That was the moment the silence started to feel like pressure. Like weight. Like a hand closing around the middle of the house and squeezing. Still, no one spoke the truth. Not yet. The following Friday, I turned off autopay on Holly's swim class subscription. It was just a few $100s a month. Small. A whisper in the roar of my paychecks. But it was the first domino. She came home with her backpack slung low and tossed it on the floor. "Why didn't you pay?" she snapped. I looked up from my seat. "What?" "My swim class. They said the card didn't work." Mandy was in the kitchen, wiping the counter absently. She turned, confused. "I thought you handled that?" I held her gaze. "I used to." That night, Mandy pulled me aside. Ben, this is a bit much, don't you think? And I said nothing. Because no, it wasn't a bit much. It was years of giving into a vacuum. Of stepping into a role no one asked for and being punished for daring to care. I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't cutting anyone off. I was just letting them feel what life was like without me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make speeches. I didn't say, "You'll miss me when I'm gone." That's something people say when they still want to be missed. I didn't want to be missed. I wanted to be seen. So I started collecting things. Small things. A spreadsheet on my laptop, hidden in a folder named Simply Notes. Inside, every expense I'd covered for that house since moving in. Groceries, $18,400. Utilities, $9,730. Phone plans, $3,880. Gifts, trips, emergencies, over $40,000. Tuition deposits, medical bills, dental cleanings, forgotten subscriptions. Jess's cracked phone, $429. Holly's summer camp last year, $1,125. A weekend trip to the coast when I drove everyone, paid for meals, and still slept on the pullout while they took the master bed, $2,073. Every number had a date, purpose, a small story tied to it. I didn't keep it for revenge. I kept it because it proved I was there, that I mattered, even if they never saw it. I watched as the months shifted. Mandy worked longer hours. The girls grew more irritable. Small messes multiplied. Cereal boxes left out. Empty glasses on the table. Socks in the couch cushions. Without my maintenance, the little invisible things I had always done, the house began to sag. It didn't collapse. Not right away. It just leaned. I remember standing in the hallway one morning, watching Jess walk past me like I wasn't there. She was late, her shoes untied, her phone in one hand, her makeup smudged. I had fixed her science project 3 years ago when the glue wouldn't hold. I had picked her up from a party when her phone died. I had stood in the rain with her while she cried about some boy she wouldn't name. Now she brushed past me like I was air. I thought about the words she said that first day and how easy they came out of her mouth. "You're just trying to impress us." As if effort itself were suspect. As if sacrifice was a manipulation. As if kindness was only a currency for approval. It made me sick to remember. It made me want to disappear. So I did. Not completely. Not at first. I just removed myself from the center. Stepped back into the corner. Became the man in the periphery again. The next birthday that came, I didn't plan anything. No cake. No dinner. No gifts. Mandy scrambled, of course. Tried to cobble something together last minute. But it wasn't the same. I watched them blow out candles and eat pizza off paper plates. Holly asked, "Is Ben working late or something?" I wasn't. I was in the garage. Just existing. The silence in the house became a character. Presence. Question no one asked out loud. Where did Ben go? Not physically. Just emotionally. Mandy started to see it. I think she knew long before she admitted it. She started making small jokes, nervous ones. "You okay? You've been quiet. You mad at us or something?" I would smile. Shrug. Just tired. And that was the truth. Not angry. Not bitter. Tired. Of giving. Of showing up with full hands and being met with empty eyes. Of pouring effort into a hole that only grew wider. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that creeps into your chest and makes you look at the people you love or thought you loved and ask, "Do you even see me?" The night before I left, I watched the 3 of them sitting on the couch. Jess on her phone. Holly watching a movie. Mandy dozing with her head tilted just so. I stood there a long time, and not one of them looked up. I left on a Thursday. No packed suitcase. No drama. Just 3 days off from work, and a cabin I found online. Tucked into the Cascade foothills, surrounded by wet pine and silence. I told Mandy, "I'm going to get some air." She said, "That sounds nice." That was it. No protest. No concern. No, "Are you okay?" She didn't ask if I was coming back. I left at dawn. The road out was empty. Cold mist curled along the edges of the highway. The hum of the tires against asphalt was the only sound for 2 hours. And then I was gone off the grid. No Wi-Fi, no signal. No one could reach me, and no one tried. No missed calls, no voicemails, no "where are you?" texts. I wasn't just gone. I was erased. For 3 days, I chopped wood and boiled water on the stove. I sat by the lake in silence and counted how many years I had spent waiting to feel part of a family that had never wanted me. 3 days passed, then 4. When I drove back Sunday night, the house was still there, still standing. But it wasn't the same. The porch light was out. Trash bags piled by the garage. Dishes in the sink. Jess's car parked sideways like she'd given up halfway through straightening it. The chaos of minor neglect. The kind of disarray I used to absorb without being asked. I walked in. No one said, "Welcome back." Mandy glanced up from her laptop. "Hey!" That was it. No hug. No warmth. Just a temperature check. Casual. "Where were you again?" "Off the grid." "Oh," she said. "Cool. Cool." I looked at the calendar on the fridge. Missed appointments. Past due notices. I walked past Holly's school forms sitting unopened on the counter. The same ones I'd always signed. Later that night, I overheard Jess on the phone, whispering furiously, "I don't know. Okay? He's just weird lately." Weird. Not exhausted. Not broken. Just weird. That's when I started making decisions. Quiet ones. Cold ones. I opened the spreadsheet I'd started months ago. I updated the numbers. In just under 3 years, I had spent almost $140,000 on that household. Tuition deposits, utility bills, groceries, repairs, holidays, trips. Phones, shoes, braces, furniture, emergency funds, broken appliances, replacements, late-night pizza orders, gas, Wi-Fi, swim meets, Christmas trees, birthday candles, school uniforms, summer programs, broken window panes, therapist appointments, canceled checks from their real father. I built a life around them, and they walked through it like renters who expected better lighting. I printed the spreadsheet, slid it into a plain black folder, and labeled it, "The cost of trying to impress you." I left it on the kitchen table. No note, no explanation. The next morning it was gone. No one mentioned it. But Mandy looked at me a little differently that night. Like she'd seen a ghost. Like she'd seen math she couldn't argue with. The next wave of silence didn't come from me. Came from them. I stopped waking them up for school. No one set alarms. I stopped fixing the porch light. Stayed broken. I stopped replacing the toilet paper. They used paper towels. I stopped reminding Jess about her application deadlines. She missed too. Blamed the school. I stopped driving Holly to swim meets. She was dropped from the team. Mandy tried to hold it together. She cooked dinner 2 nights in a row, burned one, undercooked the other. She stayed up with bills she didn't understand. She cursed softly in the living room, trying to call the insurance company. She failed to find the policy number, because I had always been the one who held it together. And now I was simply present but absent. A fixture. A shadow. They didn't know how much I'd been doing until I stopped doing it. That was the realization. Not spoken out loud. Not confessed. Just suffered through. The next Friday, Mandy sat across from me. Her voice was quiet. "Are you pulling away?" I stared at her, long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I said, "I'm stepping out of the game I was never invited to play." She didn't know what to say. Her mouth opened, then closed. "What does that mean?" I shook my head. "You know what it means." She looked down. "The girls are going through a lot right now." I cut her off. Calm. Cold. "The girls have never gone through me." She blinked. The truth hit harder when you say it flat. "They treat me like I'm furniture," I said. "Like I'm a noise machine in the background. The guy who pays for things, fixes things, makes things happen. But I've never been in the room, Mandy. Not really. Just near it." She looked like she wanted to cry, but she didn't. Maybe because she knew tears wouldn't change the math. I stood up, walked to the back door. looked out over the dark yard, the weeds growing again through the gravel. Another thing I used to handle without being asked. Behind me, I heard her whisper, "They don't mean to hurt you." I almost laughed. "They don't have to mean it," I said. "They just have to keep doing it." That night, Jess knocked on my door. She didn't come in. She just said through the wood, "Can you drive me to school tomorrow? I missed the bus today." I waited 5 seconds, then 10, then said, "I'm off duty." Silence, then footsteps, then nothing. The next morning, she missed school again. And I didn't care. Not because I hated her, but because I was done proving something to people who couldn't see what was already in front of them. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was just finally treating myself like someone who mattered. Let them miss me. Let them realize. Let the bill come due. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand confrontation. No apology ceremony. Just a slow unraveling of silence into hesitation. Into glances. Into the brittle kind of kindness that only appears when something is missed, not when it's loved. Mandy texted me first. Just a single sentence. "We miss you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Miss me? I hadn't gone anywhere. I still slept in the same bed under the same roof. I still used the same coffee mug. Walked through the same kitchen. Sat through the same quiet dinners. I was there, just no longer holding the whole damn house up on my shoulders. But suddenly now, they missed me. Not because I was absent, but because the things I carried were. Holly left a note on the fridge the next day. A torn scrap of paper, written in blue ink, crooked and smudged. "I miss your dumb jokes. I miss when you made us do the dishes. Sorry." It wasn't much, but it stopped me cold. I remembered her 8th birthday. She had cried because her dad forgot to call. I held her that night, let her fall asleep on my chest while the candles on her untouched cake burned down to wax stumps. Now she missed my chores. Not my presence. Not my voice. The structure. The labor. The invisible engine behind their comfort. Jess came last. Always last. I saw her by chance 2 weeks later, in the parking lot of the college she barely got into. She looked thinner. Older. Tired in that way only people who've lost something essential understand. She walked up to me like she didn't know what to say. She had her hands shoved deep in her coat pockets. She didn't make eye contact. Finally, she said, "I was wrong." Then, after a beat, "You really did try. I was just mean." And that was the part that mattered. Not the apology. The recognition. The admission that I hadn't been imagining it all. That the years hadn't been delusion. That the silence I swallowed was real. And so was the work I did trying to earn what should have been given freely. I nodded. I didn't say, "It's okay," because it wasn't. And I didn't say, "I forgive you," because it wasn't mine to fix. I just said, "Take care of yourself," and walked away. She didn't stop me. She just stood there, watching, quiet, small. That's when I knew I had finally stepped off the stage. That I wasn't trying anymore. That I wasn't performing for claps that never came. That I had stopped being the unpaid actor in someone else's play. I went home that night, sat on the porch, and watched the sun go down behind the neighbor's rusted swing set. Mandy opened the door behind me. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, arms crossed against the cold. "You really aren't coming back, are you?" I looked straight ahead. "I never left, but I'm done being something no one values." "I didn't see it," she said. "I know. I let it happen. I know that too." We sat in the silence. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was just the kind of silence that happens when everyone's finally said the things they didn't want to admit. "I still love you," she said. I looked at her then, and that's when I saw it, not the affection, not the regret, but the panic, the realization of what a quiet man becomes when he stops needing to be needed. "I believe you," I said, "but love without respect isn't love. It's convenience." She flinched, like I'd slapped her. I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because it was true. The hardest truths are the ones no one wants to speak. But they sit there anyway, breathing between words, filling the space between beds, between dinners, between people who once thought they knew how to care for each other. That night I packed a small bag. Just a few things. Not for drama. For clarity. I left the folder on the table again, the one labeled the cost of trying to impress you. Inside, I'd added one more page. Presence isn't the same as use. And love isn't measured by how much you can take from someone before they break. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't peel out of the driveway. I just backed out slow, looked at the window where Holly used to tape drawings, saw the corner of a faded one still hanging, a stick figure family with a crooked smile, a man labeled Ben. Not Dad, not Stepdad, just Ben. Maybe that's all I ever was. And maybe that should have been enough, if it had been said with warmth. But it wasn't. It was just a placeholder. A title with no weight behind it. A name without meaning. And I'm not here to be a placeholder anymore. Let them remember what I gave when it's gone. Let them sit in the echo of the silence I used to fill. Let the man they wouldn't call father be the ghost they can't stop missing. Because when people only see your value after you vanish, that's not love. That's grief for lost convenience. And I won't be mourned like a paycheck. I won't be remembered like a tool. I won't be needed only when the bills arrive or the pipes burst or the Wi-Fi goes down. I won't be tolerated in life and sanctified in absence. I won't be anything less than human again. So here's my question to you. Whoever you are, wherever you sit reading this, was I wrong? Was I wrong to leave? Was I wrong to stop giving? Was I wrong to finally say, if I'm not your father, stop expecting me to carry your world? Would you have stayed? Would you have kept pouring into a house that never once poured back? Or would you, like me, have finally learned the most painful lesson of all? That being there doesn't mean you're seen. That love, without respect, is a form of servitude. And that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the people who only ever reached for you when they needed something, not when they wanted you.